New class. Please join us right here. Sunnahfollowers presents a wonderful new class to add to your Islamic education. Sins of Disbelief, taught by Ustada Layla Nashiba, streaming on all major platforms. Channel Sunnahfollowers.
Okay, hold on. Give me a second, guys, to get ready. Okay. Okay. Ina alhamdulillah wa salat wa salam ala wa rasulallah. Welcome to our class. This is our class, the Maqasidic Tafsir. And this is based on the book. Let me put that up. That's what I was trying to do. This is based on the book written by Sheikh Karim Abu Zaid. And for the new Shahadas, there it is. There's a picture. Yeah, I got my background. There's a picture of the book, the Maqasidic Tafsir, Volume 1. So for my new followers and my new Shahadas, you want to go to Amazon.com and purchase this book. And while you're at it, if you can, purchase Volume 2 as well, because we're almost finished with Volume 1. And once we finish this book, I will begin Volume 2. And this book, alhamdulillah, has been an amazing book because it shows us just how the Quran interpreters utilize the Quran as a means of helping us to handle the problems in our personal lives. And we used marriage and divorce as an example as to how a Quran interpreter would address marriage and divorce in Islam using the 5-phase process. The 5-phase process, which entails, first of all, finding a surah or a chapter of the Quran that addresses whatever the objective is. And we talked about how every chapter of the Quran has an objective. So the Quran interpreter, he would find those chapters that have an objective in mind that the people need to be addressed. And then he will go to those chapters and read each verse carefully, because most of the verses in a chapter address whatever the objective is. And he would pick out verses. That's the second phase. He would pick out those verses, those ayats that speak about whatever the issue or the objective is. And then he do the third phase. The third phase, which is what we're going to cover today. Once he has taken or selected the verses of the different chapters that address whatever marriage, for example, and divorce, what Allah says about marriage and divorce, he puts all those verses together, writes them all down and reviews them. And then he moves to the third phase, which is what we're going to speak about today, the phase of trying to develop solutions for the people. So let's put the PowerPoint up on this, on the screen. And I'm looking on here on YouTube. On my Zoom room. Wait a minute. Let me give myself a moderator. I'm not a moderator. Okay. Okay, now make myself a moderator. Oh, wait a minute. Let me get I thought I had opened it up on this computer. I guess I didn't. Phase. This is the fourth phase. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, let me explain that again too. Let me, I'm going to explain it again, brother. Just give me a second. Let me just open it up first. I got kind of sidetracked here. Okay, hold on. It's hard working all these different computers and trying to follow my lecture. Okay, tonight we'll cover phase 4, We used divorce and marriage as an example. Phase 2, which is identify those surahs or chapters of the Quran that address the issue. Phase 2, go through all the different verses, write them down, write down the meaning. Each verse has its own meaning that relates to that topic of the topic of that surah. So the Quran interpreter would write down the verses and their meaning. And he'll also include hadiths that help explain it and all that. That's phase 2. Then phase 3, he would take a look at all the verses he's gathered together about the objective and then try to come up with goals and solutions for the people. That was phase 3. And we talked about that last week, how he would look at the verses and then come up with goals or solutions to whatever the issue or objective is. And now tonight, we're going to cover phase 4, how to accomplish those goals, how to accomplish whatever the main objective was regarding divorce. In this case, we're going to continue with divorce. Yes, the last time we met, we used divorce as the example. We talked about the divorce that's initiated by a man, what all that Allah says about it, how many times a man can divorce his wife and take her back. Remember, we went over all of that. And then we went over the khula, which is a divorce initiated by a woman. The rules, the guidelines that Allah has come up with that. We even talked about custody, who Allah says is deserving of the children. If they're little children, the mother is deserving of them as long as she doesn't remarry. So now we go to phase 4. Phase 3 was the laws, the rules, the guidelines. Well, phase 4 is now that we know the laws, we know the rules, we know the guidelines of marriage, the laws, the rules, the guidelines of divorce. How can we come about an objective or a solution? We have a high divorce rate. Muslims are marrying and divorcing just like the Kafirs do. So, how do we address this problem? How do we address the high divorce rate? How do we address the fact that our marriages are deteriorating? That's phase 4. So let's take a look at it. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. I done hit the wrong buttons here. Okay, hold on. This one. I'm working too many computers. Okay, here we go. And let me go up to this computer here so I can see. So in phase 4 of establishing an objective or a solution for the people, and we're using the case of divorce, high divorces, low marriages. The Quran interpreter, he will examine the actual body of the chapters that address this issue. As we just said, he will gather the verses that share the same theme of marriage and divorce, and the verses that support it, and also some of the verses explored in previous phases may not be retained. What does that mean? That means that the Quran interpreter has to maintain consistency between the objectives in the different groups of verses, because some verses may not relate. And then all pieces of evidence must be valid according to the Quran, the hadiths, and all of that. That's what we went over. Now in phase 4. Oh, wrong. I keep hitting the wrong thing. We have to understand that certain conditions can invalidate some of the evidence that we found surrounding whatever the topic is. In this case, marriage and divorce. So whatever laws, whatever rules, whatever evidences we come up with has to be weighed against the following criterion. Number one, we have to avoid any unsound reasoning that is not found among the objectives of the Quran. And this is where we lose it. There's a lot of people that call themselves Quran interpreters or scholars or imams or whatever. They'll come up with unsound reasoning regarding divorce or unsound reasoning regarding a marriage that's not based on, that's found in the objectives. For example, people say, oh, Allah hates divorce. Allah doesn't say he hates divorce. That is not authentic. That so-called hadith is a fabricated hadith. Allah doesn't hate anything that he made lawful. Okay, so anything that contradicts the hadith or any other relevant verses of the Quran interpreter has to do away with it. He can't come up with any unsound reasoning, such as saying, for example, divorce is hated by Allah. You should still stay together because Allah hates divorce. That's unsound. Okay? Number two, the objective and supporting pieces of evidence should not contradict the explanations of the Quran or oppose the Quran or the Hadith. And they should not contradict the understanding of the companions. For example, you can't say, Allah, even though Allah says that a woman, when a man issues a talaq or divorce upon a woman, Allah says in the Quran that he cannot put her out the house. He has to continue to maintain her. You can't come up with your own thing and say, but since she has a job already, or since she works already, he can put her out. No, this is not what Allah says. It's not what he meant. It's not how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that should be, nor is that how the companions understood. And this is a problem today. A lot of men are telling, or women are leaving on their own. A woman can't say, well, since you issued the verses of divorce upon me, I'm going to go out and get my own place. No, she has to stay there during that waiting period because he has the right to take her back. So you can't come up with your own evidence that contradicts what Allah says or what the companions understood. And also, whatever evidence you have cannot be based on your own political agenda. Okay? For example, you're promoting premarital cohabitation, or you're promoting open marriages, or you're promoting that a woman has the right, to be her own head of her own household because she's working. So, again, this is how we keep the authenticity of the Quran. And this is how we prevent ourselves from falling into the same sin that the people before us did of changing Allah's book. So this is what we have to be careful of in phase 4. In phase 4, the Quran interpreter is weighing all the evidence, weighing all the stuff that he's come up with, but he has to make sure that it's not violating any of this. Okay? And then once he secures or assures that his information is not violating any of those things, then he organized the evidence. He organized the evidence to come up with a goal or a solution. And again, we're using divorce. So, for example, when we using the divorce problem, how we Muslims so readily marry and divorce. Let's stick with that example. The divorce, surah of the divorce, italic, is divided into three main parts. Part 1 speaks about the healthy divorce process. Those are the first verses that provides guidance and guidelines for a healthy divorce. These are the verses where Allah says, for example, in the interpretation of the meaning, O Prophet, when you Muslims divorce women, divorce them for the commencement of their waiting period and keep count of the waiting period and fear Allah. Do not turn them out of their houses. Y'all see that? Y'all see that? This is the first part, which is speaking about the guidelines for a healthy divorce. Do not put them out of their houses, nor should the husbands leave during that period either. These are the limits set by Allah, and whoever transgresses these limits has wronged himself. You know not, perhaps Allah will bring about after that a different matter. But after they have fulfilled their term, either keep them according to acceptable terms or part with them according to acceptable terms. And it goes on. So here we can see in the first part of this chapter that addresses divorce, the first 7 verses provides the Allah's guidelines for a healthy divorce. And then the second part of this chapter speaks about the downfall. You know, the downfall of what happens if we abuse divorce. For example, Allah says in the interpretation of the meaning, how many a city was insolent toward the command of its Lord and his messengers. So we took it to severe account and punished it with a terrible punishment. And it tasted the bad consequences of its rebellion. So here you can see Allah is warning about how divorce can lead to a downfall of nations if it's abused. You know, divorce is good and clean. Divorce is lawful, but it should not be abused. It should only be given as a last alternative. When you realize that it's not possible, as we discussed last week, for a husband and a man and woman to be together. These two just don't get along. They just can't make it. But to divorce for no reason at all, it leads to a lot of destruction, broken homes, sex, drugs, children out of wedlock, etc. And then the third part of this surah on divorce, it speaks about how we should trust in Allah and implement his laws into our lives. Okay? And you can see when you read all of the verses of this surah or this chapter, these verses all connect together. They all connect to the topic of divorce, the rules, the laws, the guidelines, and how Allah is aware of all things, that we can't trick him. Allah has knowledge. As Allah says in the interpretation of the meaning, he sent a messenger who was the Prophet Muhammad reciting to you the distinct verses of Allah, so that Allah may bring out those who believe and do good deeds from darkness into light. And whoever believes in Allah and does good deeds, Allah will admit him into gardens beneath which rivers flow. So here you can see these last verses here. The last verses of this surah speak about the reward The reward from Allah for us abiding by his laws, not violating them, by us obeying him. If you have to divorce, do it the way Allah said. Uphold his rules. Don't replace his laws, his rules with those of man. Don't base Allah's laws and rules on what society is doing. Okay? And the Quran interpreter would bring all this into play. So now, phase 4 was setting the goals. Phase 4 was setting the goals for the objective. You realize that this man and this woman just don't get along. This man and this woman, they tried to make the marriage work. It just couldn't work. So now we execute the goals. Okay? And again, the key principle of the companions was that after they learned something, they acted upon it. They took this religion seriously. Okay, and this is also the key to distinguish between an objective of the Quran and other forms of explanation of the Quran. So there are 5 steps, for example, that address the problem of divorce. The Quran interpreter, after going through that chapter of the Quran and writing down the verses and seeing how they all interconnect and what the laws are, what the guidelines are, what the destruction is if it's not upheld, he then follows this. Number 1, he will explain to the parties involved to avoid divorce as much as possible that we only resort to it if there's no other way. We don't play around with the words of divorce. He'll let the men in the community know when you get angry at your wives, you have to control your tongue. You cannot issue a divorce upon your wife and say, oh, I was playing or I was just angry. It still counts. You only got 2 times that you can do that and take her back. Allah wants us to refrain from divorce as much as we can. That's why he says, when you look at your wives, don't allow yourself to dislike them, because perhaps if you dislike a thing, Allah will bring about more goodness. And don't forget, the Prophet said, for every bad quality that you find in a woman, there's 3 to outweigh it. So the Quran interpreter would encourage the people in his community, to not do divorce unless there's no other, way. And also he would talk about the importance of choosing your spouses correctly and rightly before marriage. Stop trying to be like the non-Muslims. Follow the guidelines of marriage. A woman should have a guardian, and that's the job of the guardian, to screen the men, to do background checks on the men, to make sure that these men are righteous first. If they were previously married, to make sure that they're not abusive men or they don't have a bad rep, because choosing the right spouse is the key to success. The Quran interpreter would bring all that out. Okay? And also, the Quran interpreter would try to, again, counsel the man and woman, participate, encourage the people in the community to not end up succumbing to divorce, that before people get married, do premarital educational programs. And that's happening a lot nowadays. Nowadays, a lot of the masjids won't marry you until you attend some classes on marriage, until you attend some counseling to learn what your rights are, to learn what your roles are, to learn the purpose of marriage. Okay? And finally, He'll also let the community know that because of the high divorce rate in society and how it's impacting us as a nation, that we shouldn't rush into marriage, that we should not ignore the red signs. A man not praying, a woman not wearing hijab, a man smoking cigarettes. If a man is smoking cigarettes, how can he lead you when he can't even lead himself? And he'll also let the people know that there's no such thing as a happily ever after. We will have differences of opinions when we marry. We will have disagreements with our spouses. Okay? But always seek guidance from professionals. Seek guidance from the people in the mosque that can help you, the imam and whatever brothers and sisters are available for counseling. And again, when conflict emerges, don't let the problems worsen before you seek help. So this was an example as to how in Islam, the Quran is not outdated. The Quran is for all times. And that's why it makes me kind of upset when I hear Muslims today talking about, oh, that stuff doesn't apply today. This is 2024, or we live in the land of the kuffar. So what? The Muslims lived in the land of the kuffar back in when the Quran was sent down too. But these guidelines and these laws apply to all times. You just have to find the proper Quran interpreters. Just because these brothers go to school and get PhDs in Islam don't mean anything. I tell you guys, hikmah, wisdom comes from Allah. You can't buy that. You can't get a paper from anybody on that. Allah gives wisdom to a select few. All right, so I'm going to stop right here. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Now, in this chapter, the next thing, I think that Kareem Abu Zaid, we used marriage and divorce as an example as to how a Quran interpreter would use the Quran to come about with solutions and goals. I think he uses another example too. So I can't remember which one, but we're going to go over the next example, in the next class. Okay, any questions or comments? Did I break this down and make it clear for you guys? Is Mina here?
Yeah, it was clear.
Because I know the chapter was confusing, so I had to redo it to try to make it make sense for you guys.
Yeah.
And these are all just examples that he's showing. And that's why I like volume 1, because you guys are basically learning the science, that is used. And this is the same science we use with the hadith too, how to go to the Quran or go to the hadith to bring about solutions that relate to today's problems. And I really like how he used the two main problems we have today, marriage and divorce. Okay, any other questions or comments? Yes, brother, go ahead. I know we got some questions about Christmas. I got a lot of new shahadas. Go ahead, ask your questions. Yes, I'm going to say it again. For my new shahadas, I encourage you to stay away from the family gatherings because your faith has not yet been, your faith is new. So for you new shahadas, if you can, it would be better if you just tell your family, I'm not going to come over for dinner. I got something else to do or something. Or just tell them, I'm new to Islam. This will be my first year not being involved in that. Okay. Well, I'm not going to come over and participate. And if your mother wants to bring you a plate of food, they say, well, we made all this food for you. Tell them, bring the food, but I'm not coming over. You can do that. You understand, brother Timothy? And I'm saying that because you guys are new to Islam. Your heart, the faith is not in there. You might end up falling, succumbing to temptation. I get phone calls. I mean, and this is Christmas. I get phone calls, not phone calls. I get text messages every day from a lot of you brothers who go around family and y'all end up drinking. Wallahi, this is no lie. Y'all, I'm not going to name your names. How many of you brothers have texted me who are new to Islam? You hung out with your family members and you ended up drinking alcohol or you ended up smoking weed. Y'all text me all the time with this stuff. That, you know, your faith is not strong yet. So I definitely don't encourage you. If you can't go around your family and say no to drugs, how can you think that you're going to go around your family and not take part in celebrating Christmas? And I want y'all to remember, just your family is trying to give you dawah. Your family is trying to give you dawah. They're trying to get you to come back to your old way of life. Thank you, Brother Dawood, Brother Musa Dawood. Yeah, your family is trying to they giving you dawah, trying to get you to come back to that old lifestyle. So I don't encourage none of you new Muslims, none of you, not any of you, to go and participate with any of your family members during these holidays. You can tell your mother to drop the plate off. If you have an auntie who you haven't seen that's in town, tell her to come over to your house. Or you take her out for coffee. Take her to Starbucks for coffee. Take her out for ice cream. But do not go over to their houses because you're not strong enough. Just like, and by the way, for my new Shahada brothers here, and by the way, this is weird. I have more men. It's amazing. I have more men that are learning from me than women. More men are following me because they don't have the brothers telling them this stuff. See, I know your culture. That's the difference. I know the culture you come from. Stop hanging with those people. You brothers are new shahadas. You just converted to Islam. You have to change your friends. You cannot maintain relationships with men, with your male friends who are smoking weed and drinking alcohol and smoking cigarettes. You cannot maintain, they're not Muslim anymore. You have to let them go. You have to tell them, we can't hang out no more. I'm a Muslim now. You brothers understand? Walaikum salam, Brother Ahmed. You brothers understand? You have to let these people know that you are Muslim now. So you can't hang out with them because as long as you keep going around your old friends, you're going to keep falling back into that marijuana and y'all going to keep falling back into the drugs. Then you're going to be having sex out of wedlock again. Shaitan doesn't want you to practice Islam. He wants you to go back to those old ways. Does everybody understand? So do not go over your family's house during these holidays. Just tell them that you're not going to come over. Because I know how y'all party. I know it's always alcohol, ain't it? America's big on alcohol and weed. Everybody gets high. You've been getting high. And you've been drinking all your life. The brother said, keeping it real, Layla. That's right. I'm keeping it real for you. I'm going to break it down to you and keep it real. Yes, if they want to give you a gift, tell them that they can bring it over to your house. But you're not going over there because that's their holiday. That's their holiday. Everybody, like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, every people has their holidays. The Prophet used to take gifts from the non-Muslims on their days. The companions did too. But you ain't going over there not on no Christmas because that's a sacrilege. You let them know I ain't coming over there. I don't want to take part in none of that stuff over there because this is totally against my belief. This is totally against my belief system. You got something for me? You can bring it to me after New Year sometime. Okay? Let them know that. And your children shouldn't be involved at all if you got kids. Tell them to give your kids the gifts on Ramadan. Ramadan's coming up in a couple of months. Whatever they bought your kids, tell them that they can give them to them during Ramadan. Yes. Okay, I get this question all the time. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us how to answer the greeting of non-Muslims. And that wonderful, authentic hadith of Sahih Bukhari, when those Jews thought that they were being smart in their greeting, the Prophet simply said, "Wa alaikum," the same to you. And that's all you have to say. When people say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, just say, "And the same to you," and keep it moving. The same to you. Wa alaikum. That's what wa alaikum means in English. The same to you. And keep it moving. That way nobody gets offended. You don't have to worry about anybody taking a gun out, blowing your head off. Every year somebody gets killed. A Muslim gets killed because he told some non-Muslim, "I'm a Muslim. You don't say that to me." And they get into an argument. You get popped. People pop you. You don't want to get popped over something stupid. Just say, "Wa alaikum," the same to you, like the Prophet said to the Jews. Yeah, that's simple, right? Yes, when you at the grocery store, the same thing. They say Happy Holidays, the same to you. Keep it moving. Yeah, we have to remember, guys, this is the time of year that those Christians think that they giving dawah to us. They will look for you. The simple fact that you are a Muslim, that you got a beard, you got a hijab on, they will run up to you because they really think that they celebrating Jesus. And they got to call you to the Lord and all that nonsense they go through. So they're going to run up to you. They're going to hunt you down because of that hijab and try to get up in your face with that. Just say wa alaikum, which means the same to you, and keep it moving. Yeah. Any other questions or comments?
All right, I got a little comment to make. It's not just the new shahadas that need to stay away from their families. It worked just as much for us that's been Muslim for a while, because they'll tell you, "Oh, just come over and get a plate. Just come," and it still turns into some kind of shenanigans, and it never fails. But what I run across a lot is, "I celebrate your holiday with you. Why can't you celebrate with me?" And I just say I just don't, and I never really expand. There's something else I could say that would shut them down and quit asking me that stuff. I've been Muslim all this time. You still ask the same stuff.
Yeah, just saying that. I mean, because they like I said, they think that they're giving us dawah. They think that we're going to burn in hell because we ain't celebrating Jesus' birthday.
Where?
They really believe that. So don't engage them with that. I mean, and like you say, even the old Muslims, I mean, don't go around them. Don't go around your family during this time of year, because this is the time that they call themselves giving dawah. And anybody can weaken up and slip, you know. I'll never forget one of my co-workers. She felt bad for me because I lived, you know, in Southern Ohio by myself without any family or friends. So she invited me over to her house. You know, I think I'm all tough. I said, I'm going to go on over here. This was Thanksgiving. She called herself, but I told her, she said, Layla, just come over for some food. She said, girl, you know you don't eat. I'm going to make some everything with beef just for you. And I'm going to lay this food, make macaroni and cheese. Girl, I took my little fast behind over there. And I didn't know she had a whole family, her grandfather, her grandmother, her uncles. And as soon as I walked in, they all jumped up. We were waiting for you. Let's all hold hands and give grace. I said, oh, let me grace myself right out there. No.
Oh.
They thought I was going to hold hands with them and they was going to pray over the food in the name of Jesus.
Oh, yeah.
I left and I never fell for that again.
Uh-huh. Yeah, we all fell for something, because I know my mother was like, I've been gone all this time in Florida. I just want to celebrate just one holiday with y'all. Just one holiday. I just want a big Christmas. You know, and then the guilt, you know, Shaitan let the guilt get you like, well, I won't really be celebrating Christmas, but what I can do is you try to figure ways to make it work, but you're still doing the same thing.
The same thing. Well, at least I'll be with my family. That's what I hear. A lot of people try to use my family. I get to see all my family. Girl, please. You can fool yourself, but you ain't fooling Allah. That's why I say I avoid that stuff completely. You know.
Yeah, because Mark almost got me. Oh, just come get your plate. I was so thinking about, so I can go come get my plate on the 26th.
Yep, and that's why I was telling you guys, tell them to bring the plate to you. Drop it off over here to me.
Yeah.
Auntie can come over here and bring the plate. Or I'll take you out for a coffee. We can go to Starbucks. Yeah. Starbucks open. And it is. That Starbucks over here where I'm at is open 24 hours. It's even open now.
Yeah, because like my aunt came to town. Aunt Meg is like 89, I think now. She came to town. They was all good till Aunt Meg left out that door. Here came the liquor. He came the weed. I'm like, all right, I got to do like Aunt Meg. I got to hit it.
Oh God, yeah. That's what I'm telling these new brothers. A lot of these new Shahada brothers text me how they go around their old family or friends and they so the Layla, I made a mistake. I smoked a joint. I drank a little alcohol. What were you doing in that environment? And that's why I'm saying to all you new Shahadas, don't go. Y'all don't need to go around your family during this time of year. Stay home. Stay away from them. Go to the mosque. You know, stay away because you're not strong enough.
Yeah, because they'll figure out something. Oh, let me get you something to drink. And, you know, so you think it's just some punch mixed up in there, and then you find out I put a little toddy in there. Girl, you know good and well you don't drink. Yeah, but they'll figure out something.
They sure will. And by the way, guys, don't forget my classes are every day. So tomorrow we got, what's tomorrow? Wednesday. Tomorrow we got that 6:30 class, my 6:30 class, and we got my class on the prayer. I'm going to do the prostration of sujood, the prostration of forgetfulness. A lot of you ask me, what do you do when you forget a rakat or something? I'm going to go over all of that tomorrow, inshallah.
And I think did I write down my question? I call myself writing down questions. I don't know if I did or not. Because I never remember when I get in class.
Yeah, subhanallah. All right, any other questions or comments here? Okay, inshallah, I'll see everybody tomorrow at 6:30. Inshallah, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum.